approaching the 2-year mark of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and with the Middle East facing potential disaster after Hamas October 7 attacks on Israel, the specter of a broader conflict looms large. Political leaders and military officials assert that the current threat surpasses any since the Cuban Missile Crisis. European governments are issuing stern warnings to citizens, urging them to prepare for possible hostilities. NATO countries are now gearing up for one of their most extensive drills, involving 90,000 troops from across the continent and the United States. This display of military strength is seen as a final effort to showcase their capabilities before potential adversaries, particularly Vladimir Putin. Admiral Rob Bauer, NATO's military committee chairman, is urging governments and civilians to brace for a wholesale change in their lives, predicting a large-scale armed conflict within the next 2 decades. Retired Brigadier General Kevin Ryan highlights Russia's substantial increase in defense spending, reaching $140 billion in 2024, a third of its national budget. He suggests that these changes go beyond the scope of the current conflict with Ukraine, pointing to the possibility of a war against a major foe, such as NATO. The first phase of a potential conflict is anticipated to involve cyber warfare and missile strikes. Cyber attacks, occurring almost daily, are considered a precursor to major international conflicts. Experts warn that a significant cyber attack could mark the beginning of hostilities. The capacity for cyber warfare is expected to escalate, with potential disruptions in infrastructure and logistics. Disinformation campaigns, propaganda, and nonviolent pressure tactics will also be employed to sow unrest in countries targeted by Russia. While cyber warfare can destabilize NATO, experts emphasize that conventional kinetic operations on the ground, in the air, and at sea remain crucial. A brutal missile attack is likely, targeting key military assets and infrastructure in Eastern Europe, paving the way for troop deployment. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine serves as a lesson, demonstrating that despite technological advancements, war's brutality persists. Brigadier General Ryan warns of Russia's willingness to use long-range precision missiles against civilian targets across Europe, citing the importance of adequate air and missile defense in the region. Coordination and enhancement of air defense capabilities, including early warning systems, are deemed imperative by experts to ensure cohesive operation within NATO nations. In the hypothetical scenario where Russia decides to challenge NATO in the next 2 decades, General Hodges envisions a multifaceted assault employing land, sea, and air forces, aiming to destabilize the military alliance. General Hodges anticipates that Russia, having learned from its actions in Ukraine, would have replenished its military arsenal and advanced technologically, possibly with support from Iran and China. In one strategic possibility, Moscow might focus its renewed military strength on the Suwalki Gap, a narrow land strip between Poland, Lithuania, and the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad. An attack on this vulnerable point, the sole land border connecting mainland Europe to the Baltic states, could pose significant challenges for NATO. Should Putin or his successor successfully block the Suwalki Gap, General Hodges suggests using that area and Belarus as a launchpad for the second phase of the offensive. This phase would involve deploying thousands of Russian soldiers, AI-controlled tanks, and special forces to target one of the Baltic states on NATO's eastern flank, such as Lithuania, Poland, or Estonia. Although NATO has stationed troops in the Baltics, their role is considered a tripwire force, meant to delay an invasion until the main NATO army arrives. After attacking a NATO member on the eastern flank, Russia would assess NATO's response. General Hodges emphasizes that hesitation from NATO could fracture the alliance, especially given the obligation under Article 5 to protect member states. If NATO were to falter, General Hodges predicts that Putin would not relent. Following the ground invasion and aerial assault, Putin would swiftly deploy the Russian Navy to control the northern Arctic route. General Hodges highlights the strategic importance of this move, especially with the melting polar ice cap opening new shipping routes. By dominating the northern route, Russia could significantly expedite its maritime access, economically benefiting Moscow. This control over Arctic waters, facilitated by Russia's long-range weapons, would allow influence over shipping in and out of the North Atlantic. Russia's claim to ownership and control of the Northern Sea Route, NSR, falls within its exclusive economic zone, affording control over shipping, navigation, and resource exploitation, as per the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. The NSR provides Russia with a direct route for shipping its resources to the east, avoiding potential interference from the US and Europe. Amid strained relations with the West, the NSR also offers strategic advantages, allowing Russia's northern fleet to launch attacks on Scandinavian ports or approach the UK via the North Sea. The potential deployment of submarines to cut undersea cables could deal severe damage to Western infrastructure, logistics, and communications in a heightened future conflict scenario. As General Hodges emphasized, any conflict involving a Russian attack on NATO would not unfold in isolation. The widening gap between East and West suggests that other major powers may join the fight against NATO. Russia has been strengthening ties with other powers that share grievances against what they perceive as a hegemonic world order led by the US and its Western allies. Iran, a significant Middle Eastern power, has a formidable military and supports various armed groups in the region, forming an axis of resistance against perceived threats from the West and regional rivals. A strategic partnership treaty between Iran and Russia is in the works, encompassing military, economic, and diplomatic cooperation. In the event of a Russian attack on NATO, Iran could potentially side with the Kremlin, given their shared opposition to Western influence. While China poses a threat and collaborates with Russia on certain aspects, it is less likely to directly intervene in a European conflict. Instead, China may seize the opportunity to advance its interests, potentially launching an invasion of Taiwan while NATO is focused on the threat from Moscow. North Korea's isolation makes it less likely to be directly involved in a major conflict, but it has already agreed to supply munitions to Russia for the ongoing war in Ukraine. As the military alliance between Moscow and Pyongyang develops, there is a chance that North Korea could use nuclear weapons coercively, placing strain on Western alliances in Asia or directly threatening the United States. Vladimir Putin's long-standing belief in the Soviet Union's collapse being a catastrophe raises concerns about the potential goals of a Russian attack on NATO. Analysts speculate that former Soviet states would be initial targets, given the Kremlin's increasingly hostile rhetoric towards Baltic and Eastern European nations since the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. While Russia may lack the strength to assimilate large European territories, its condemnation of NATO's perceived expansion signals a desire to disrupt and destabilize the Eastern Bloc. Moscow's victory could involve overthrowing pro-Western governments, replacing them with Russian puppets or Kremlin-aligned parties to undermine NATO's alliance. To avert such a scenario, experts emphasize deterrence as the linchpin. NATO and its member states must maintain a military capable of repelling any Russian invasion, signaling resolve to use this capability. Large-scale drills, such as Operation Steadfast Defender, serve as a demonstration of NATO's mobilization ability, deterring Russia by showcasing the alliance's readiness for a major war. Brigadier General Ryan stresses that preparedness alone could prevent wider conflict, while General Hodges underlines Russia's respect for strength. He emphasizes that all-out war would only occur if Russia perceives NATO as unprepared or divided, highlighting the need for unity and capability. Some analysts assert that nuclear deterrence remains crucial, but the proliferation of hybrid warfare necessitates a focus on conventional deterrence. Large-scale military exercises, like Steadfast Defender, aim to illustrate this conventional capability and deter Russian aggression. While deterrence is crucial, it is not a permanent solution. Continuous efforts to establish communication and positive diplomatic relations with Moscow are essential. Drawing inspiration from Theodore Roosevelt's big stick diplomacy, experts advocate for a balanced approach. While possessing a strong military is vital, it should be complemented by diplomatic efforts, adhering to the proverb that emphasizes speaking softly while carrying a big stick. This multifaceted strategy aims to discourage further violence and prevent the specter of all-out war from looming over Europe.